Hello, I'm Elder John Henderson of the Gathering Church. Welcome. This is your Daily Dose. We're continuing our look into that part of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount where he compares our obedience to his word, this reset of our thinking, to a man building a house on a rock. In Matthew 7 and 24, Jesus says, "Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock." Jesus is saying that this person is using wisdom, and we continue its comparison to building a house as we look at the application of wisdom principles to building or resetting one of life's key pillars. For the next few minutes, I invite you to go further with me as we look into the pillar of relationships, and specifically an aspect of relationship that seems to cause us a deep amount of concern. However, it is a relationship that God is very clear about: our neighbor. Jesus sums it up this way, starting in Matthew 22 and 37. Jesus said unto him, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment." Verse 39, "And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang the law and the prophets." Let's set aside for a moment the question of who is our neighbor. Let's look squarely at the commandment to love thy neighbor as thyself. Most of us are aware of his command to love our neighbor as ourselves, and yet that does not always seem to be the most personally beneficial to us, and then we find ways and reasons to avoid applying it. Perhaps what we do not see is the wisdom of how this pillar opens to us the blessed life, and how it impacts our right standing with God. Let's look again at Jesus' words from Sermon on the Mount. In Matthew 5 and 6, Jesus says, "Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled." Now, if you've been following along with us over the past few months, you're likely no longer apprehensive about that word righteousness. You know that righteousness is simply being in right standing with God, ourselves, and those around us. This then is the wisdom principle. The one who is blessed and fulfilled is the one who hungers and thirsts after righteousness. This is the key to reset or build our relationship pillar. We must consider that this reset that God is calling us to is not going back to how things were. The old normal was broken too, just in a different way. The reset God is calling us to is how he's always intended it to be. And how is that? Well, I said earlier that while we are aware of this commandment to love our neighbors, practically speaking, we do not always see the personal benefit. So it's really important for us to get inside ourselves those words in Matthew 22:39. Remember, it says, "And the second is like unto it," meaning that what follows in the second part is on equal footing with the first part. Love the Lord thy God. I want to show you in the Bible the wisdom in this. Let us look at Psalms 15. It's a short psalm, just 5 verses, and opens with a question: "Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill?" Here, King David, the writer, is asking a very practical question. He's asking, what are the qualifications to visit and dwell in God's house? In other words, who can enter God's presence? Some might call that personally beneficial. In the next 4 verses, there are 11 qualifications for entering God's presence. And you know what? They all have to do with how we treat others. Now, we might expect that who can hang out with God, be in his presence, is he who loves God above all else, or prays morning and evening, and offers his sacrifices from a pure heart. And I think those would be good answers. But in this Psalms, David highlights love thy neighbor. Here are a couple of those 11 qualifications. He that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness is one. He that backbiteth not with his tongue, nor doeth evil to his neighbor is another. Nor taketh up reproach against his neighbor is yet again another. It may be that when we truly hunger and thirst for righteousness, the who that is our neighbor becomes easier for us to see. This has been your Daily Dose.